This isn't so much Dear Rach and Soph as it is Dear Pink and Pink. Hello, I am Sophie Green.
Should have called the episode, I mean, not the episode, the podcast that.
Because if those of you who are watching us, as opposed to just listening to us, we're both wearing pink. This is
And
not
we both do like pink and wear a fair amount of pink in our wardrobe.
Yeah.
And even me in my hair, although it's fading now.
Exactly. I'm mad for a bit of pink. It makes everyone happy. People always comment on pink when I wear it.
I agree. Yeah. No, love pink. It's the best color ever.
Yeah. So, Rachel Pink Johns.
Yes, Sophie Pink Green.
How are you today?
You should have been Sophie Pink rather than Sophie Green.
Look, regrets. I've had a few. That's one of them.
No. Oh. If we ever do the co-writing thing that I think we mentioned a couple of times, we'll have to do like our surname, like we'll have to have a special name and it can be Pink.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, did you ask me a question?
I did ask you how you are today.
Oh, I've been working all day and Sunday. I dream of having a weekend off, but that would mean actually getting my act together and writing quicker than I have been lately. But I'm very close to the end of the Lucky Sisters now, so feeling okay about that. Although I don't like ends, I've remembered. I always feel like ends feel a bit naff and that everything just is too sickly sweet and, even though there's going to be a bit of a shocker at my end, but I'm not quite to the shocker part yet. So yeah, I don't love ends, but I'm plodding on. But the biggest distraction for me, and I've had this a bit, I think I've already mentioned it on the pod a couple of weeks ago. I had another idea, like for my next women's fiction. It's not actually a completely new idea, but it's been something that I thought about for a while, and then suddenly something clicked in my head when I was trying to go to sleep last night. Right. So then, of course, this morning, instead of getting straight into my writing the actual book that I'm supposed to be finished by now and really absolutely needs to be done. Instead of that, I wrote down a proposal for my next women's fiction, which probably won't even be my next book because I'm contracted to 2 more rom-coms first. So, 2
more rom-coms and there's a little crime situation.
Oh, yes. Jeez, I forgot about that. So what have you had any news or excitement or anything happening in your world?
I will get to that in a sec. But I am curious, and I'm sure some of our listeners / viewers are as well. When you had that idea before you went to sleep last night, did you actually write it down? Because I've had ideas as I've fallen asleep and sworn to myself that I will be able to remember it, and then have not.
No, I wrote, well, it wasn't really a huge, massive thing. As I said, I've been thinking about this kind of for a while, but suddenly I was just like, actually, I want this one to be my next one, if that makes sense. So I'd already kind of had the idea, and I've got a title for it, and that's what I was more thinking last night, because my title, I'll say, is immediately What Happened to Linda. That was the title that came into my head. It's about a group of 4 friends who actually, like, I won't say too much.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you really want to tell us?
I won't say too much, but it's about 4 friends that were friends in high school, and then someone from their high school, one of them starts thinking about for various reasons and they can't find her. Like, she's just disappeared off the face of the earth, it seems. There's a lot more to it than that, but yeah, I don't want to go too much yet. But so I had the idea, the title in my head was just What Happened to Linda, and I started thinking about this last night. So I can't call it this because Dervla McTiernan, dear friend of mine, an Australian author, had a book out just, a year ago called What Happened to Nina, and it just felt like it was, even though I've heard of other books like What Happened to the Bennets, and it just felt, no, it was too. So I was lying there in bed trying to come up with title because, I like a title first, and I came up with one, and so that kind of got me excited again. And yeah, I won't say it now on air. But yeah, that got me excited again. And so then this morning I thought, okay, I'm just going to write this down and a few other ideas that I had. So yeah, it wasn't kind of something that I had to completely remember, if that makes sense. But I did put the title in my phone when I was lying in bed. Just in case.
Well, then that's fair enough. So yeah, ideas, yes, I have a few as well, and one of them keeps getting rejected.
What do you mean keeps getting rejected?
Well, because it's a title, because taking my inspiration from you, I never used to be someone who put a title on things, but I know you love titles, so I tried to.
This one's annoying me because it took a while to come to, so I don't love it, but I can't have the one I want. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, that's a shame. But I'm sure you'll make the best of the title you do have. No, this was a title I really, really liked, and I had a 1-story idea for it about, I want to say about a year ago, and then I did a proposal. That was a no. But like the core idea is a good one. So then I decided I'd go back to it, write a completely different storyline that came to me because of this title. And I'm not going to say the title. And
Being
then
so,
that one was
what's the
also
word?
no, not really. So I'm shelving both ideas. Maybe I'll try something again with the title, but I think it's a matter for discussion with my publisher if we actually do anything with it. So this is on the subject of rejection, which we've talked about before. And actually, we've had, I think, 2 of our most popular episodes were about rejection.
Really?
So
I should say that I haven't told my publisher about this idea yet because I dare not, because I'm supposed to be finishing my and it's the weekend, so I don't want to, be annoying. But yeah, who knows? Like, I want to write this book next. Actually, as I said, I've got 2 rom-coms, rural rom-coms that I'm contracted for. And now I've changed my mind. I never really felt huge love for the storylines, but I love the titles again.
Right. Okay.
So I was trying to force a story to go with the titles, but it was niggling with me. And then, like, I think I said a couple of weeks ago that I'd had 2 more ideas for rom-coms. One is a rurally type rom-com and the other's completely not. But I'm actually going to go to my publishers now and say, I would like to write these books next instead of the one that's contracted to, but who knows what they will say. So
yeah. I also realize I'm saying this from a position of privilege, having been published several times. And so this is not like, oh, this is my first book idea and it's being rejected.
Been rejected. That's true.
But it is one of many that has been rejected. So I don't actually get upset at all.
Give you a good reason for why?
They just can't perceive the audience for it, or don't think that my readership will be interested in it, which is fine. Again, I really don't get upset about it because I just don't believe that I should be attached to any one idea. And this is all part of the process of trying to find something that's right for the readership. My main interest is in connecting with the readership. It's not in telling a story that I have this fantasy is going to change the world or anything like that, or something that I absolutely have to write. There are so many stories that
So you're excited about lots of different things, and you can find the excitement and the fun in whatever, like, because I feel like I do really need like the ideas that I pitched to my publisher for the rural rom-coms that I got contracted for. The readers will probably like them, I reckon. Like, there's nothing, but I haven't got that passion and excitement for them.
Yeah,
and I feel like I need that. But so everyone's different, right?
Well, you do need it because you're going to spend a lot of time with the story. You're going to spend more time with the story than anyone else. And
so you don't mind that story has not been picked up for now, but you do want a story, obviously, that's something that you can really, get into and enjoy.
Yeah, and I also believe that nature abhors a vacuum. So when one idea goes out, another comes in, or even more come in, and it's for me that's it's.
I do think, the more you think about ideas, like, and it's so funny. It's a bit like if you go to the shops, and you're looking for a particular outfit for a specific event, and you know exactly what you want, but you can't find it.
Yeah,
and then you go to the shops another time, not that I do much just browsing of shops anymore, and you're not looking for anything, and suddenly you find a million outfits or tops and stuff that you want. And I think it's a bit like that with writing and ideas. Like, the times when I've been really stressed and worried about block and all these different things, my brain is not conducive to coming up with new ideas. But when I'm feeling not relaxed in my writing, because I can't say I'm really relaxed at the moment because I'm way over deadline, but when I'm feeling like that I'm doing the right thing, like, kind of thing, like I'm that sounds weird, but then the ideas, they keep coming and stuff. It's when I put pressure on myself or I stress about it not having an idea that I don't have one.
Yeah, because that's an energetic block when you're stressed. Now, this may or may not be related to what we're going to talk about in this episode, because this episode is a writing therapy episode, and our guest is in our Zoom waiting room. So I
feel like you're going to have to do most of the therapy today.
That's quite okay. Initially this started because you were calling me your writing
Yes,
therapist.
exactly. I'm just here as an observer who occasionally butts in and gives her
I think
2
you have a
cents.
lot to offer to our guests. So I will put us on pause and go and retrieve our guest
Excellent.
from the waiting room. Rachel, we have a guest, as
Yeah,
I think I
I love a
mentioned.
guest.
And our guest is Mona Farrokhi, who is also from Perth. And
Yay.
Mona was born in Iran and raised in Perth. Her love for books and writing deepened throughout her school years. She is a qualified social worker with a background in child protection, mental health, and disabilities. In 2023, she was awarded a 2-week Catherine Susanna Pritchard Fellowship, appeared on the podcast Writing from Square One, and was selected to be a part of the Path to Publish mentoring program with WA author Sasha Wasley. Mona is an active member of the WA writing community and is part of the Festival of Fiction Committee. Now, Festival of Fiction is run by your friend Tess Woods, Rachel. So
Yep.
I'm suspecting you and Mona have met each other. I'm meeting Mona for the
have.
first time. Hello, Mona.
Hi,
Great to have you here, Mona, and to see you again.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I will be over for the Festival of Fiction in both my author and publisher capacities in October. So hopefully I'll get to see you then in person. And anyone who is in the Perth area or thinking of or needing a reason to go to Perth, then the Festival of Fiction will be taking place over the October long weekend.
And you can find it on Facebook and follow for updates, which I think are being announced very soon. Mona can correct me.
Yep, at some point they will. And Instagram, follow us on Instagram.
Instagram.
But Mona, we're not here to talk about the Festival of Fiction. We're here to talk about you and about your writing. So please let us know why, when I did a call out for anyone who would like some writer therapy, and NB, I am not a therapist, and nor is Rach. But
she's closer than me.
Why did you decide to respond? What's on your mind?
Because I guess I'm up to I've been writing this story for a long time now. It started in 2014. And then I only wrote a couple of chapters, and then I fell into this huge depressive block for years and years. And the story haunted me for so long that in 2022, I was like, if I don't quit my job and write this draft, it's never going to get done. So I did it, and I still worked casually later, but yeah, I managed to get it done. And I think it was just me wanting to make sure I honoured that story and wrote it and got it out. And yeah, and I've been working on it since 2022 now, properly. And it's my 4th draft, I think. And yeah, I'm kind of at that point where I'm almost ready. It's taking a long time. Didn't realise how long it would take, but
it takes as long as it needs to, sort of.
I guess that's where I'm at the moment, because I've dedicated such a long time to this. I'm worried that, I'm worried that that I'm not going to like my next story if I write another thing, because am I able to be in love with that next story as well, as much as I've devoted my life to this one? And it's kind of going to feel like I'm cheating on my characters or something. I don't know. It's really weird. Yeah.
It's not weird. I don't think so.
None of it's weird. I'm going to start by asking you why this story in particular.
So, okay. So in 2014, I think, so what happened was that the characters, it's about this girl who, her husband comes home and breaks up with her, asks for a divorce, doesn't tell her why. And then she jumps into she just goes into turmoil, goes on a string of turbulent dates, trying to find out what is happening and why. And then she ends up, uncovering more than she's ready to face. And I guess for me, it's because around that time that kind of started what I was going through, a similar thing at that point. And that started the story for me. And I've written 2 chapters, left it. And then, I guess for me, it's getting, I've used this story as a way to heal myself and give myself closure that I never received.
Okay. I often say, sorry, Sophie, before you say anything else, I'll say, I think writers come to writing in 2 reasons, I've noticed. One is through therapy, and the other is you've always wanted to write. So did you have a burning passion to write before this, or this just sort of?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. I was writing script. It was actually a script. The characters I'd drawn from were a script when I was younger. So her child, like teenage years, it was like a script that I'd written years ago when I was in high school. So I'm using that as the backstory now. So yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so I feel this is going to be a tough love session, Mona, and that may be why you wanted to come to us. So this is
I've had plenty of tough love from Sophie, but it's been good in the end.
Because as a yoga teacher in particular, that's usually what I dish out. Ask anyone in my class. So you've said you've actually given yourself the answer in what you just told us, which is that the novel acted as a form of closure for you. That was the word you used. That means it's closed. And that's why you are blocked, right? So it has served its purpose. Its purpose was to help you make sense of something that happened to you at the time you started writing it. It doesn't make sense for you now. So you holding on to it now is, I think, a way of trying to emotionally acknowledge the work that it has done for you, that you really feel connected to the story and you're seeing it as a separate entity, which you should, because that's what stories do. They go out into the world. But I think what's happening in this case is that you're loading up this story that actually has served its purpose to you with the expectation that it then needs to go and serve a purpose for other people, for readers. Now, I don't believe that that is the purpose of this particular story. I think you have reached your closure, and that's beautiful. Like that, what an amazing thing to have done for yourself. So, and what an amazing thing that that story has done for you. And now the trick is to trust yourself enough to know that you had one and there will be others, but perhaps because it was serving a purpose and because it's autobiographical in a way, you're thinking, well, I won't have any more ideas because, or I won't be able to execute the ideas the same way because that was actually me writing about myself. Instead of actually trusting yourself and thinking, you know what, I stuck with this for all this time. I have showed up for this. I showed up after a break and I came back to it and I dedicated to it. Instead of actually patting yourself on the back about that and saying, I did a great thing here. I believe you're actually like running yourself down and thinking, oh, I should have done more with this sooner. Like I shouldn't have had that depressive block. I shouldn't be still writing this years later. So therefore I need to do something with it to prove to myself that actually that time wasn't wasted. And PS, no time is wasted with creative work ever. Any amount of time that you're spending doing something, it's all in service of your greater art. And so I do think this novel has served its purpose. And at the moment, what's happening is a bit of a sunk cost fallacy, which is I've put all this time into it, and therefore I need to do something with it. Sunk cost fallacy also applies to relationships. I put all this time into this relationship, therefore I better stick around and see if it actually gets better. It never does. And you need to honor your time and your energy and your love and devotion and commitment to it with love and affection and joy, letting it go and saying, you know what, I've done a great thing here. This story has served its purpose.
Would you say then, because I think obviously you've worked all this effort, you want to put it out there, right? Rather than, it's like almost it has to be perfect and you're worried about not being perfect enough to get it out there. You're worried about rejection before you've even put it out there, right? We actually, in our intro to today, we were talking about rejection, right? We both still get rejection. We get like every day you get rejected as a writer by someone who doesn't like your book and it gives you a 1-star review as well, right? So the only way to know if the story has legs and if this one is going to be the one is to get it out there. Now, you said something about you getting a manuscript assessment. I would actually go, if you've worked on it for this long and that, you know, we've talked about this before as well sometimes, and I'm sure Sophie has thoughts. A manuscript assessment, you don't know that I've talked to many publishers. My other publishers would prefer people not to have a manuscript assessment necessarily, because it can be very different to what they want and love in the book. So if you believe in the story and you think you've done the time and you've done your 4 drafts and you kind of, it sounds like you're finished with it, right? Because you're tired of working on it. You don't want to work on it anymore, but you're scared of putting it out there in case you get rejected. Well, that's part of this business, actually. So you've got to bite the bullet and put it out there. I wouldn't worry about a manuscript assessment. I would work out whether you want to pitch it directly to publishers or agents. And I would start doing that and getting feedback from the people in the industry who actually, you know, can make the difference. They might say no, and it could be because the book's not what they want. Could be because they got something similar. We did an episode on rejections. Could be because it's not good enough yet, right? And I've got many manuscripts in the drawer that are never going to be good enough, and it's really hard when that one you're really personally connected to that. But you just have to kind of let go, as Sophie said. So I put it out there, and as always has been really good advice, is put it out there, but you always need to have hope in it. Like, start writing something immediately, because when, you know, whatever happens, if rejections roll in, you're like, well, okay, it doesn't matter, because now I'm on this book and I love this book and I'm into this book now. And so, you know, this is going to be the new shiny idea is always better than the old one, right? So if when you start getting rejections, you've already got something that, if you don't get rejections, lo and behold, great, you've got something else that you'll be able to show your agent or publisher as well. And they really want that. But I know many people who have worked, now you said you had a big gap between starting the manuscript, right, and then going back to it. So you haven't had, you know, decade or so. But I know a few people who have been working on the same book as long as I have known them, and that's almost 2 decades. And it's almost as if they don't actually really want to be a professional writer. They, you know, because you kind of have to get used to, I guess it depends what you want out of your book, out of your life and out of your writing career. Do you want to be a writer that, you know, continues to write lots of different books and puts them out and makes a career out of this, or do you just really care about that story? And so you've got to ask yourself the tough questions, I think. But my advice would be sort of what Sophie's saying, to let it go. No, by that I don't mean completely get out, but put it out there to see what happens. So many writers I know have been rejected by agents and publishers, and then later, a couple of years later, accepted by that same agent with a different, you know, manuscript, because people see them, you know, growing and developing. So I would say, yes, I agree with Sophie. It's time to let go of that book.
One way or another.
One way or another. I've got a thing on my wall, which I put here because I often work from a place of fear. And it's probably one of the reasons why my current book I'm taking so long to finish, because I really love it. I really do think it's one of the best things. So I'm scared of stuffing it up by finishing it, right? And so I've got this thing on my wall that says, don't write from a place of fear. Don't get scared to get to a place where you don't know what to write next. That's a problem for future you. And that's kind of in terms of, I don't know, I'm confused with your message. Do you have another idea and you just don't think it's the same or good enough, or are you blocked and you're not sure about ideas yet?
I feel like, no, I do have another idea. I did start writing a short story, which turned into a 10,000 word.
You sound like me.
So that's never going to be a short story. That's definitely a novel. And that's the idea that I'm going to be working on next. It's a different kind of genre, but I feel like that one's ready to go, like for me to dedicate to work on. And I'm also, there's another project that I want to work on as well. So once I've kind of got this off my hands, then I feel like I just need someone to look at it from start to finish, which is why I'm looking at an assessment, just someone to look at it and read through it.
Have you had any beta readers who like read through other writers?
Well, I've had other writers like from my groups, which they've actually looked at segments of it, but I haven't had anyone
read the whole.
And I feel like that's because it's too close to me. And the thing is, like, it's still a work of fiction. I made a lot of stuff up, but it's still.
Yeah. Oh, hey, here's something to tell you. Even if it's completely fiction, people will think there's part of you in it. Like, I feel like everything I write, you know, people, the more books I write, probably less like that, but people are always like, you know, is that how you feel about this? Or did that experience happen to you? I didn't know that you know, that, is that what you do with your husband? Like, they think everything. So in some ways, now I know we're not talking about writing sex, but one of my advices, I can't even talk properly, never mind, right? One of my bits of advice when talking about writing sex in novels, and Sophie and I did a whole podcast about that too, is forget about your grammar. And I think you're semi-worried, it sounds like, what people might think of this book being out there as well. To me, I'm feeling that you're both scared of putting it out there, but also you want to put it out there. So you're like torn between, and you're putting it off maybe, but I do understand wanting someone to read the whole thing. I think that's definitely, what do you say, Sophie? Not necessarily a manuscript assessment, but I definitely think it's a good idea for someone to read it.
I would rather, if you're going to commit time and money, depending on how much money you have, I would actually go for a freelance editor to do a structural read on it rather than a manuscript assessment. Manuscript assessment is not the same as a structural read, and that person's going to tell you whether or not they think it should be published. But unless they are actually in the publishing industry,
they won't know. Yeah, that's a good point.
So Mona, let's give it, I gave the tough love speech. We are being tough here, but with love. To you, how is that feeling for you at the moment?
Well, it feels okay, to be honest.
Good.
Because I feel like I'm ready. I'm at that point to let it go. But I guess
because they need permission.
No, I'm literally about to say the same thing. You want us to give you permission, perhaps?
Someone just tell me to get rid of it. Like, tell me.
Well, I'm here to tell you, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
And get it, as Rachel said, just if you want to submit it. Just, there is the block is something you are putting in your own way, and that's not a malicious thing at all. This is so common. And I've been doing this Substack notes challenge, and I prepared something for tomorrow, and it was meant to be a quote, and the quote is actually pertinent. It's a Marianne Williamson quote that I sometimes think about from the book A Return to Love. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Ooh.
And I think that's when you do creative work, I do think that's a big thing. It's a thing in life as well. But I remember the first time I heard that quote years ago, thinking, I reckon that's true. We tell ourselves it's a fear of failure, but actually it's the implications of success, or the implications of really inhabiting the life you were born to live, can feel overwhelming. It can be like, well, okay, what if I do get the thing I want? What if it is out? What if this book is published, or what if people see this story? What are the implications of that? And so, because I think, again, coming back to the fact that this is a very personal story to you, I would imagine there is fear, even if you're saying it's fiction for the reasons Rachel just stated. Everyone's going to think it's you anyway. And then what does that mean? Everyone's going to know. Like, it might feel like you're out there running around naked. Yeah. And you can feel that and love the exhibitionism of it, create from that place. Like, yeah, I want everyone to think this is my life. But I think for you, because that novel, as I said earlier, has served its purpose, what you're wrestling with, partly letting go of that part of your life too.
And not wanting to have wasted those years, probably.
But then, yeah, but again, they're never wasted.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like, I feel like that's maybe what you're thinking. And whether this is, even if something happens of it, like, you don't know that, right? You don't know what's out there. Whether you put it out there, it could get picked up, it could not. And if it doesn't, you might feel like that's a waste. So it's better not to put it out there and know that, then you feel, safe that you haven't wasted anything. But all I want to say is, I don't know many writers, I don't know about you, Sophie, who have not been rejected first time, but I do know some. But what I was going to actually say about that is, those people who have been rejected, I don't know many who have actually gone back and then reworked those rejected manuscripts. Usually they've learned from them and moved on. I tried once with one of my rejected manuscripts to sort of, because I liked the idea of it, and I tried bits and pieces of it, and I couldn't revive it. So sadly, sometimes you may have spent that time and it may not end the way you wanted to, but I agree with Soph that it's sort of waste. I think one of the things that people often say, I think it was Anna Jacobs, another WA/English writer, she talks about all of writers needing an apprenticeship or something like that, because if I suddenly took up poetry, I don't expect myself to, pottery, I don't expect myself to suddenly be, brilliant at it, and to be able to go out and make a career as a potter, right? But for some reason with writing, that expectation seems to be there. So like, you need, was it 10,000 hours to learn? And we're still learning. Like, I hope that each of my book gets better and stuff. So yeah, what I'm saying is it may feel like a waste, but as Sophie said, it's definitely not, no matter what happens to it. But I think it's time to give yourself permission to have, like you said, you're tired, right? And I see in tiredness also, not boredom exactly, but you're fed up with it, right? You've been with this manuscript for many, many years. You know it inside out. You've rewritten it a few times. You know, this is supposed to be fun, right? It's not fun all the time, but writing is like, we do this not because anyone's holding a gun to our head and saying we have to, right? We could all do something else. And so we come to writing because we're passionate about story. We enjoy the process. We want to make things up. And if it's not fun anymore, you know, why are you doing it? So I would, and you might come back to it even. Like, it's not necessarily completely the end. You know what I mean? Like, you give it a chance, you pretend you put it aside, you send it off, whatever, you forget about it, give yourself permission to have fun again and to really get to know some new characters. Don't worry about cheating on the others. They're still there, right? But you know, it's supposed to be fun. Not all the time, but deep down, right? So is that what you know what I'm trying to say?
It is. And also, Mona, I know from so many years being in yoga world, but also around music and books, as soon as you let go of this,
100%,
you will, like, you are basically like you there's been a dam, it's now going to turn into a river. So you basically, you need, if you undam the river, things will start flowing. And I assure you, it's this process that just happens as partly it's a process of surrender. It's just like, you know what? I've done everything I can with this story. I really have. All the energy I can give to it. It's done. I'm now going to offer it up with love to the universe, and then see what happens. And as soon as you surrender, you have basically turned that dam into a river.
That's so true.
Things start to flow. It's an odd process. We can't articulate it. I can't see it. I can't poke it and say this is what it looks like. But I've experienced it so many times. I've seen other people experience it.
Me too. When I've given myself permission to say no to a project or to put something off or whatever, then suddenly I've gone, oh, I want to write that project now. I know exactly how to do it. Or, you know, sometimes we just put too much pressure on ourselves.
And it's, you know, in yogic terms, there's something called aparigraha, which is to not grasp. It's one of the yamas and niyamas, which is part of Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga. And it's something that's drilled into you when you're studying to be a yoga teacher. But non-grasping is a really fantastic concept for life generally, because it is that idea of don't grasp onto things. Particularly don't grasp onto them really, really hard, because it will block that energetic flow. It will block you reaching samadhi, is the idea of it, actually, that it's put at the start of those 8 limbs so that you can work through the other limbs and get to samadhi, which is enlightenment. So we've talked a lot, Mona. We've talked at you.
Have any other questions?
Now talk at us.
Or anything else you want to know? Yeah.
Actually, going back to the vulnerability thing, I'd like to actually ask you both, like, how do you prepare yourself for that vulnerability of becoming an author? Like, can you remember back to when you were both in that situation?
Well, Rachel's 20 odd. I've lost count. That's why I keep saying 20 odd, because as soon as I put a figure on it,
14 years the 1st of April. And yeah, it's really hard. I think preparing yourself. Look, it was a very different time. I'm honest, back then. Like, even though that sounds like this was 200 years ago, but it wasn't. But it was a very different time. We've talked about this on the podcast before too. I didn't have to have a Instagram account, or, you know, nobody was really telling me I should be building my brand and doing all this stuff. So you could easily be an author without really putting yourself out there that much. And so I think I eased into it, really, to be honest. So that's probably not very helpful. So if you have any helpful information.
Yeah, look, it's a shock in a lot of ways when you're putting work out there, because you absolutely are setting yourself up for rejection. And part of doing this work is trying to develop that thick skin. It can be thin at times. I've actually done a lot of work, which Rachel knows about. There's there's a concept called celebrity energy, and it's an American woman called Whitney Hewland who came up with this concept. I think she's trademarked it now. And I've done a lot of work of hers, that's actually really helped. And this is not about me saying, oh, I'm a celebrity now, because that's definitely not the case. It's actually about feeling safe being seen. That's why I was really interested in her work. And when I came across her on TikTok, actually, and then I started paying for courses and audio, like meditations and things, because I just was really interested. I thought, well, okay, I am putting creative work out into the world, and I don't feel safe being seen, but I realized that in order for this work to keep going out, I need to get to that place. Otherwise, I will run myself down energetically, and then I won't be able to create the work anymore. So I've done quite a bit around that. I have found that extremely useful, and that's made a big difference, even just in terms of me doing social media. I used to really not like the idea of doing it, because I would think, oh my God, I don't want to be out there. And now I gleefully make videos at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a different time, I guess, before, and now there's a lot of different pressures
Yeah.
in putting yourself out there. So yeah. I also, just one more thing is around that fear of falling into like that block for an extended amount of time. I feel like I did, since then, like I did stop working on it, but then I did go back to it and finish it in 2022. But ever since then, I feel like I've created a bit of a routine in being able to dedicate and making sure like my writing cup is full every week, because I do work full time.
Mm-hmm.
Can be quite draining as a job. And so just trying to make sure that I move forward with having that plan and that strategy of making sure my writing cup is always full. Because I feel like when I fell in that state of that block, I wasn't able to find that inspiration to write. I had no energy whatsoever to do anything.
Can I ask a quick question? Did that, you say depressive block, was that related to what you were writing and it being so closely and emotional, or it just was?
It could have been very raw, but I think no, it was definitely, it was a lot more around what was going on for work as well.
Okay.
It did take up a lot of my brain space all the time.
It is hard. I mean, I think that's something all, writers, and not just aspiring ones, but many, writers who are published and also have to, maintain a full-time job, families, all the other things. Like that is the biggest thing, finding that time and feeling, I remember when before I got published, sorry, like I'd been trying to write for like about 13 years by this stage. And I kind of felt possibly similar to some of the things you have described there, but not exact. I felt like, oh, I want to just sit on the couch and read my book, or I want to sit on the couch and have a nap or watch a movie, but I want to write. I'm supposed to be writing books. Like I want to be an author, so I need to do this. And it almost became like a drag. So I've got a bit of, it's hard. I have this advice with myself. Like it's kind of like part of me saying, be kind to yourself. And if you're feeling too tired or whatever, have a nap, like go to bed early. You don't force yourself. But then the opposite of that is you can get too kind to yourself. So I don't know. Sophie, what do you reckon?
Well, just on the subject of a block, I think it's normal to worry about it happening, but possibly the surest way to guarantee it's going to happen is to worry about it happening. And it's also stemming, I would imagine, from that idea scarcity notion. And Rachel and I are both big fans of the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I hesitated there because I realized I said big and big. But in that, Elizabeth talks about how ideas are basically in the ether, and that they're going to visit you. And if one visits you and you want to do something with it, you need to, because otherwise someone else will do something with it. And if you're not going to do something with it, then you put it back. And I really do think ideas are everywhere, and they're everywhere for everyone. It's not like I have some special passport or Rachel has a special passport to visit a place where there are ideas. They're really, really everywhere. But it's related to, you've used the word block, and that's what it's related to. And I'm used the term damn. And that's part of it as well. It's like when you are damming yourself up, when you have put an impediment in your path, those ideas don't feel like they are flowing, but they are actually everywhere around you. So I would say absolutely, you will have more ideas. Nothing is surer than that. They really are everywhere. People who feel like they're stuck for ideas, I just say, walk down the street, look at a house you're passing, look in the garden, start to ask questions about it. Is there a dog in the garden? Okay, where was the dog born?
Right, she always sees just some really tiny little thing down on a beach or someone in the window at a laptop, and it just, you know, goes from there. One thing though, I would also say with that, it's possibly a little bit of a tangent, but it's very easy to talk yourself out of ideas because you think it's been done before. And you know, or you put so much pressure on your idea to be the one and the big, you know, it's got to be the one that breaks you out and it's high concept and all the thing. But nothing is original. Your how you write it will be different to everyone else's. So just try not to talk yourself out of stuff. That, I don't know if that's something you do, but I think that's sometimes related to when I've had blocks in the past. Yeah. So I don't know. Are we being helpful at all?
You are. It's been very helpful. I think I'm just trying to remind myself to keep that flow going, because I think it's easier once you've got that writing community around you, because I've got that now and I haven't had that before. So keeping that keeps me accountable as well.
Remember, even just doing like 50 words, or, you know, if you're tired or whatever, reread your manuscript. I know a lot of people say, you know, don't reread as you go, just keep going on, but rereading works for me quite well. And it means that by the end of it, I've got quite a clean manuscript, and you know, so there's always things you can do, because you can like maybe tweak things or think about your manuscript, even if you're not actually adding words. And I find that if I'm sick or tired, I really do struggle to actually do anything productive. So I'm trying to really analyze how I'm feeling, whether I'm just lazy and I, you know, need to push on, or whether I'm actually, you know, not in my best place to write. And it would be better to maybe, as I said, have a nap. Don't underestimate the nap. I think it was Kylie Scott recently, an Australian successful romance author, who was like, I, you know, am constantly napping as part of my writing process, you know, like, so you've got to just be kind to yourself, but remember that you can do stuff in your manuscript. And also sometimes thinking, like, some days I used to be very much, I have to write 2,000 words a day. I have to write 2,000 words a day. Now here I'm thinking I'm a lot slower than I used to be, because now I've given myself permission not to write 2,000 a day. So maybe it's not the best advice, but what I'm saying is that sometimes I think, you know, a lot more, and I believe, you know, and that's working too. So remember that actually making progress in your manuscript is not necessarily actually adding words.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing is that I feel a lot of that guilt of, like, when I'm not doing anything on my manuscript each weekend, and I'm like I can't even watch TV anymore.
Yeah, that was what I was like too. And I almost gave up. Like, I thought, well, this is ridiculous. It's time to give up, except I can't give up because I've told everyone that I'm going to be a writer. So I said I'm going to give it one last ditch attempt. And so, yeah, I gave up the manuscripts that I, you know, was trying to work. And I was like, now I'm going to write one final book. I'm going to write something that I'm absolutely love, that I'm not going to think about publication. That's another thing I'd probably say. I think a lot of us early aspiring writers, they're thinking too much about what's going to happen after they finish the book and getting it published and stuff. Whereas, I feel like, I don't know about you, Sophie, but that's almost detrimental. That it's better just to kind of focus on writing a book and having fun with it and seeing where you go, and don't put so much pressure on yourself for what happens later.
Yeah, I don't advise putting pressure on oneself if one can avoid it. But I do want to talk about the fact that Mona mentioned a magic word then, accountable. So now this tells me something else about you, Mona. Because I'm now going to talk about Gretchen Rubin's 4 Tendencies framework, one of my favorite things to talk about. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but that word tells me you're an obliger. And the fact that you're an obliger, so I should explain that first. So in the 4 Tendencies framework, which American writer Gretchen Rubin invented, and I think it's one of the most useful things for anyone to know about, she identified 4 different groups of behavior, and it's not a complete personality framework. The groups are upholder, obliger, questioner, and rebel. Now, obliger is the largest group. Obligers need accountability in order for the expectations they put on themselves more than anything. So obligers are great at expectations that other people put on them. They're great in the workplace. They're the people who are going to produce for their bosses. They're going to meet those deadlines. But when it comes to things that they put on themselves, they need an accountability partner or something to hold them accountable. Mona, you said the community holds you accountable, but they feel guilty, and you're guilty, a little bit wretched if they don't achieve the things they say they want to achieve. So the usual example I give is it's someone who says, oh, I want to go to the gym. So there's an obliger who's like, I'm going to the gym. I want to go to the gym. They don't go to the gym, and then they feel terrible that they haven't gone to the gym. And what they really needed was someone to hold them accountable to go to the gym. So the other part of that is obliger rebellion. And I think obliger rebellion is probably what happened to you with the block, in that you got to a point where you felt like you had to do this thing, you had to do this manuscript, you had to do this manuscript. It was, you were dedicating time to it, and then you hit this point subconsciously where you just thought, that's it, I've given enough to this, and I'm throwing my hands in the air and walking away. And then you come back to it, and you're now reaching a point again of obliger rebellion where you're thinking, I've dedicated so much to this, it's not giving anything back to me. So obliger rebellion can happen in a workplace, and writing a manuscript is work, where the obligers keep saying yes, 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 yes to every request. Then they rebel, then they feel bad about the rebellion, and then the cycle starts again. So I don't know whether that resonates with you, but you mentioning the word accountable just made me think of what you'd experienced in those terms.
That was very, very good, Sophie, because I've been listening to your podcast, and I've heard you mention Gretchen so many times, and I've always wondered, well, I really should look into it. And what am I? Where do I fall in there? So yeah, thank you.
No, that's all right. So she has a quiz, 4 tendencies quiz. You can take it if you're curious. But yeah, I think also what Gretchen would say is that obligers need to be kind to themselves, as Rachel has just said. You need to be kind to yourself, and not try to not think you should be else.
Yeah.
Or not think you should be other than you are. Yeah.
One more thing. Did we all just wear pink on purpose? I didn't get that memo, but we're suddenly all pink.
I did say to Rachel when we started recording, we should have called it Dear Pink and Pink rather than Dear Rach and Soph.
Yeah.
So yes, Mona, we are all in pink, and I love that you have picked up on the pink wave.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So yeah, I think that's really all I needed to talk about, but you've helped me a lot, and really I think I just need to, basically I've become kind to myself and let this go, because it's ready, and I don't think it could ever be any more ready. I mean, other than edits and stuff
Yeah, but that's what publishers are there for. My publisher said recently to me, when I did ask this question about manuscript assessments and stuff, she's like, that's my job. I want to have a manuscript that's, they can see, I'm sure Sophie can see this being a publisher, you can see whether there's potential in something and it's worth, working with an author. Obviously you want to put your best foot forward, but that's a publisher's job to work on that manuscript and make it the best it can, help you shape it. I don't know if you disagree, Sophie. Yeah.
No, I don't at all. Authors can only do so much. And so when you just said, Mona, you feel like, you couldn't do any more for it, that's the point at which you need to let it go.
Yeah.
You're there. It's ready. It's ready to either go out into the world or not. It's served its purpose for you. So you wish it well, you send it off with love. That sounds a little bit
you get on with the next
very, but let it go, and then you've undamned yourself, which is really exciting. Yeah. It's a really exciting place to be.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming on and being so vulnerable.
So really, I just need to move on with my life now. It's kind of like, I'm done with this.
Absolutely. And there's so much freedom in that. It can be scary, but it's also really freeing. And as I said, the point at which you surrender that project, I bet you will feel it in your body. Maybe not immediately, but the shoulders may drop. You might breathe a little differently, because we hold on to things so tightly and we don't realize we're holding on until we've let them go. And then we think, why did I expend all that energy on something that's not serving me anymore? Because that's really what it's about. Is this project serving you anymore? And if it's not, adios.
Let it go. Let it go.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for coming on.
you're very welcome. We'll it's heading into your Sunday evening in Perth. It's Sunday evening where I am, so we're going to say farewell to
And
you.
can I just say, before Sophie cuts me off, because she did the other day, so I just like butting in quickly. Keep us updated. Let us know what you decide to do, and yeah, we'd love to hear how you go with the rest of your writing.
In my defense, Rachel, I didn't realize you were adding something the other day.
That's why I'm just butting in now.
So there you go, Mona. You're just seeing us sort of
I-
out real time.
I really appreciate you both. So thank you very much. And yeah, I'm just grateful to you had me on, and I think this was the best therapy I've ever had. This is all I needed.
We love that story. Thank you for
so
coming on.
much.
I'm going to
Bye.
put this on pause and we'll say goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
So, Rach, the point at which I said to Mona, this is going to be tough love, it should have clicked for me that she was most likely an obliger, and that's why I actually thought she needed tough love. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I almost mentioned that because when you were talking about the Gretchen Rubin quiz, how I did it, and it came up questioner, and I'm questioning whether I'm actually a questioner.
Oh God. Oh my God. That is so on brand.
Too funny. I need to investigate it more and stuff as well. But I'm hoping that was useful for Mona. I actually find these sessions really useful for myself as well, because it helps me to think through things and work out how I feel about certain aspects of writing and all that kind of stuff. Even if I can't remember all the things, like she asked, how did I feel right back in the beginning? But that's like, I don't know. I was about to try and do maths. It's a quarter of my life ago now. So, you put it that way.
Yeah. But anyone listening who would like some writer therapy with the note that Rachel and I are not licensed therapists, this is just us being writers offering therapy, and me as a yoga teacher influencing the therapy I'm offering, therapy in inverted commas. Do let us know. You can email me at sophiegreenbooks@gmail.com. We've now had 2 official writer therapy sessions, one with Emily Paul, now one with Mona.
And we had an anonymous one too, didn't we?
That's right. We had an anonymous one, and then we have one more scheduled, but we're prepared to take more therapy, and you do not need to be a published author or an author with a book coming out, like your first book coming out. You can be like Mona, someone who is unpublished. Just let us know what you're interested in discussing. It may be something we've already discussed, but don't let that stop you. We'll happily rehash all subjects.
Similar to books, isn't it? What I just said, in that, you might write a book that's got a very similar topic to somebody else, but it'll be different. And the same if, your question might be similar, but your circumstances might be different. And our answers might be different because we think differently at different times of day. So,
yeah, that's right. And we will be in different life cycles of our own projects and all that. So really, I think a big part of our interest, Rachel, in doing this podcast, I'm speaking for you, but hopefully it works, is, we want to offer information that's helpful to people.
Yeah. Can I just say, I wanted to say thank you to Kelly Bradich. I don't think we've thanked her yet. Apologies if we already have. Maybe we have, but listen, I think maybe we have now. But anyway, I'll just say she's left us a lovely review. Listening to Rach and Soph is like connecting with your writer friends. Creative conversation at its best. Thanks for producing the podcast. I look forward to each episode. So I think we have mentioned that before. I've got memory issues. I'm blaming my manuscript. But if we can put a call out, and say that if you have enjoyed our podcast, if you do love listening, please leave us a review, because that really helps us, apparently go higher up in the algorithm and all that kind of stuff.
And the memory issues while working on a manuscript are real. I am hopeless with names for real people when I'm working on a manuscript, because I'm so in the world of
I'm going to tell my kids that's why I can never remember what they're called and call them by each other's names, because I'm always constantly writing a manuscript.
Look, I do think it's part of it. Like your pathways in your brain are being used to make up stories. Obviously, other things are going to be shoved aside while that's happening.
Very true.
So,
well, thanks for another good chat, Soph. I always enjoy your writer therapy, whether it's for me or someone else.
Happy to do it. People who want it, let us know. And Rachel, I'll see you again soon, no doubt.
I'm sure. Have a good week.
Bye.